And if they call the police tell them to man up.
Oh yeah,
you know, you're a 6'2" bloke. What are you doing? Well, how can you claim that this little woman is attacking you? I mean, I've talked to so many men in that situation. Often the issue is the children, and men quite rightly are nervous of their physical strength. They don't want to get into a physical fight with their partner, so they'll restrain themselves, even if she's, hitting them over the head with a frying pan or whatever it is. I mean, I've seen photos of men with, nails raked down their faces or attacked with knives or whatever it is. And they just take it and take it and take it. And then sometimes they might retaliate. But they will stay there for the sake of the children. I mean, that's the really interesting position we've reached in our society now, is that whereas once women were stuck in relationships because they had nowhere to go, they couldn't escape a violent man, they couldn't escape a philandering man, they had to put up or shut up. Men are now in that situation because they know if they leave, they'll lose their children. Oh. If they call the police, the chances are the police will believe her and they won't see their children for years on end. And they'll lose, the jokes about men giving away houses. I mean, it's actually not a joke about divorced men losing a huge proportion of their assets through divorce, and let alone the legal battles that can take enormous amount of their assets just through paying lawyers. I mean, they're on a hiding to nothing if they stand up and say, I'm leaving, I want to still see my children. You're a violent woman. I've done interviews with men in that circumstance, and they will hang in for grim death rather than take that risk. It's tragic. And not only the other classic area, of course, we haven't really got onto sex, but I mean, men will cope with no sex in their marriages for 20 or 30 years rather than risk losing their children. And it's the most extraordinary.
We'll talk about sex soon.
That's the other area that I've spent a lot of time on.
Finish this topic by asking about something that many debaters say, and they not only feminists. I read just today in the paper here in Stockholm, a famous Danish writer saying the same thing, that one thing that men don't understand is that women are afraid almost all the time. That's something that we hear often. Constantly afraid. Maybe it is that women remember instances of violence more clearly because they are afraid, or is it? Do you even believe that?
I don't agree with that at all.
Women are more afraid than men when they're walking in the streets. When they're, regardless of whether it's relevant or not, to be afraid, they might be that. They might think that they're going to be attacked or raped or whatever.
Which, of course, is. I mean, particularly, I would have thought countries like Australia and Sweden, the chances of actually being attacked in the streets, thank goodness, are still pretty low. Yeah. Yet, I mean, I think it's probably true that women are more likely to be nervous in that situation than men are. And yet, of course, men are much more likely to be attacked, much more likely to subject.
Not raped, though.
No, that's right. But murdered, yes, absolutely. There are violent, usually men, unfortunately, in our society who will attack random strangers on the streets. And I mean, we're seeing increasing numbers of women doing that, young women. Unfortunately, we've seen a real trend in Australia towards gangs of violent women. But women are smaller, women are, there's a natural fear in women, but I don't believe it's something that rules most women's lives.
Okay.
We just, it means if we're going into an empty car park at night, we will be cautious. Yeah. But there are plenty of situations where men are cautious too. Mm-hmm. I mean, I spent 5 years living in New York, and believe me, this was in the 1980s, men and women rightly took precautions about where they walked at night. Yeah, and it's just nonsense to suggest this never applies to men.
Do you think that women in our society, Western societies, are portrayed as weaker than they actually are?
Absolutely.
And whose fault is that?
It's the wimpish fourth-wave feminists. I mean, for heaven's sake, us second-wave feminists fought for the right to be strong, powerful women and not to be chaperones and to be seen as taking our place alongside men and not always up on a pedestal and getting special treatment. I mean, it is one of the most depressing aspects of my life, watching women wimp out and demanding special treatment in all sorts of situations and demanding to be treated like victims and protected by men. Get over it, women.
Yeah.
And I think I came to the conclusion that, sex is what's most fixed. And therefore, that's why it's important now to patriarchy to do away with the notion of it. Because like a racist society needs the notion of race. If you don't have the notion of race, you can't have racism, right? But you don't need the notion of sex and gender to have patriarchy, because it's just going to be there anyway. Do you see what I mean?
Well, not really, actually, but I mean...
Okay, let me put it another way. Like, what I mean is this. I'm saying it in the last chapter.
I'm just a bit confused.
Yeah, like, during, like, 2,000 years, if you look in the archives of everything that's been written, and you look up the word woman, you will always find that, religious authorities, that scientists, the old Greeks, ancient Greeks, wrote about women in a very derogatory way. Oh, woman is just, not as good as men, basically, for 2,000 years. So the word woman was something that they defined.
It was actually non-man, really.
Yeah, even that. It was non-man. Like, a man is a, perfect character and a woman is imperfect and so on.
Okay, I understand what you mean now.
So during the past 100, 200 years, women have started to take back that word. So we're now saying, no, you don't get to decide who we are. We are saying women is this, women is that, and we have filled the word woman with a new meaning a political subject that is oppressed, right? And that has the right to fight for her own rights. That's what woman basically means today. So patriarchy doesn't own that word anymore. So it can just do away with it. It can say, we don't need that word. Let's just stop using it. It's a tool that's no longer in their hands. So why can they do away with it and still maintain patriarchy? Because the basis of oppression is real. We will still keep on having children.
Yeah.
But if you make the analogy to, for example, a racist society that just did away with the word race, that just wouldn't talk about it, it would be more difficult to uphold racism because it is in the word. That's why, the racist wants to keep the N-word in his vocabulary. How would he otherwise be able to note the other person as other? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah,
whereas patriarchy doesn't need the word woman because it's fixed. That's my point. Yeah. I know it sounds a bit... I write it better in the book, so it's better explained there.
It makes sense. Yeah, you explained it well. Good. Well, you reason, of course, also in the book about, around the standpoints that exist, about the differences or non-differences between the sexes and what varieties of feminism that endorse one or the other side. The classical dichotomy is, of course, between biology and structure, that all is biology, or all is social structure, and you reason that both of these viewpoints in their extremes are not viable.
Yeah.
Or so, but isn't it obvious that both are true?
Of course, both exist.
Yeah.
Because, you look at biology, it's obviously there. It exists.
It's a scale.
It's not a scale. I would say more that it's... Okay, biology is always there. Like, that's what all women in the world have in common, our biology, right? But my life is not the same as a woman born in Afghanistan or in China or in Peru or anywhere else for that matter, even in my own country, because of culture. So you can't just discard culture. Obviously, if I was... In some countries, I wouldn't even be born because there are so many abortions of, females before they're born. And they're not aborted because they identify as women. It's because they are.
Yeah.
So, of course, there you see both biology at play because what they're looking at is abortion of what is basically female biology. But you see the culture is what's aborting that child. not biology. So you see both factors.
Yeah.
And I think you need to take into account both factors to understand the world.
So the difference, if there is any, between male and female sexuality, and what that really means, and how important it is it overblown? Is it?
So when you come to a moment in your life when you would like to explore this, first thing that is the first sort of false premise. It's not necessary. I mean, you can look at biologically and physiologically that there are differences in female and male sexuality. When you look at us as from an energy point of view, we have masculine energy and feminine energy. And when you, as an individual, as a sovereign being, you can take these qualities, these energies, and you can integrate them into yourself. You're also working on your holistic being. You're healing, you're being whole, you're being unified and united with yourself. That's what I was talking about earlier about self-intimacy. From out of this place, your relationships and also sexual relationships can really expand because you are playing with more of energies than just the female energy or female sexuality is that of a receptor, of receiving. Masculine energy would be one of giving, of penetrating. But when we are aware of these energies within ourselves, even as a female, I could actually then penetrate someone else by getting into contact with that energy, that masculine energy within me.
And be the driver, and be the one that it takes the initiative.
On top, also. You might say.
Well.
But because it's more of an energetic role exchange.
Yeah. And it's a dance, I guess.
Also.
So as you say, you can exchange roles.
Yeah.
During a sexuality act,
but also in your life. There are some moments that you need to be in your masculine energy to get things done. I find that that is something that I could really work on. And to be quite honest, I like to, as a very much embodied feminine energy, I would like to see that masculine energy come from outside of myself. And yet I know that I have it within inside.
The reaction came immediately. Many said they were shocked. The catch-22 thing here, in this context, is that it's virtually impossible to be taken seriously if you both claim there is some difference in sexuality and condemn sexual harassment as much as anybody else. It has to be either or, it seems. It is as if every hint at biological differences beyond the physically apparent equals defense of male filth. Speak of psychic epidemic. From a materialistic viewpoint, it's understandable if people think it would be easier to do away with discrimination and harassment if the whole gender thing was merely a social construct. But on the other hand, since human beings are to materialists just another animal, it would seem a bit odd to imagine that humans were the only mammal to have, as it were, evolved away from biological differences in sexuality.
A woman is, for psychological wholeness, should develop her masculine side. I'm going to use quotes. And a man should develop his feminine side. Now, this is so thorny because right away we're into sex role stereotypes. Mm-hmm. And of course, Jung died in 1961. He was born in 1875. He lived at a time when we had a really different understanding of the sexes and their roles. In some sense, it's very traditional kind of Swiss married life. So it's thorny, and I I think when we talk about qualities that are feminine and qualities that are masculine, there are probably some elements of that are just purely kind of cultural stereotypes.
Yeah.
But I think there might be some elements in there too that we could say, well, no, that is more associated with women. Or that quality is, I mean, we know that men in general are more aggressive than women.
Yeah.
And we know, there's a big body of research that shows that women tend to be more agreeable than men.
If you like this video and other interviews and talks on Mind the Shift, please like, share, and subscribe. I appreciate all the support. Thank you.